Hey Mahesh, how are you? Welcome back.
Good, Savannah. How are you in sunny California?
Yes, sunny California is doing well. Thank you. How are you in where are you again? You're in the cellar then again today, right?
In the cellar, but it's in the south, so it's in not far from Bourbon country.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Well, you let the cat out of the bag. We're here to talk about uh, what's really happening in the American whiskey scene, in particular with bourbons. But before we jump into that, I want to make sure everyone's tuning in to us and follow along with us on social media. This is our second edition of the Whiskey Life Talks, and follow along on our YouTube channel on Find Rare Whiskey, and certainly visit us on our websites to get more information about not only the brands and the products we're going to highlight today, but any upcoming tastings and things like that. So you said bourbon country. It seems like after within the last few years, there's been kind of this resurgence of bourbons. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I mean, I've been, as you know, I've been around whiskey for a long time, and it's
Yeah.
not just with Scotch, but bourbons and American whiskeys. But it's been a really good resurgence. I mean, when I was 20 years ago, bourbon was, hardly anybody was drinking it. But I attribute that to some of the big bourbon players who went out there and did some innovation. They went out there and pushed out their products. They got a bit more innovative, and they started creating some nice different styles of bourbons. And that's all the big houses. You're looking at Sazerac, you're looking at Woodford Reserve, you look at them, Jim Beam. All of the houses started coming out with their unique ranges. Jim Beam would have the Basil Haydens and the Bookers, and all those started coming out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just there's entry line stuff. Even Jim Beam has other stuff. You look at Woodford; they're starting to produce different lines in there. But Woodford also is the parent company's, what do you call it, Brown-Forman, and they've got some great lines in there. One thing one of my favorites, and I'm going to pull this up here, is one of their lines is the Old Forester, which they're bringing in revive this one here. But this is the Old Forester, a very limited edition birthday bourbon. So,
man, look at that!
As I say, this is liquid gold. So
yes. What year is that, by the way? Is that the 19?
This is this is the 19. Yeah, I've got a few of them, so I was just looking at that. And the 19 is amazing. So
definitely.
And then after that, with more people coming in, you had other brands like Willet opened up their distillery. Then you've had the Pappy Van Winkle. I mean, obviously everyone looks at that as the sort of the granddaddy of them all.
Sure.
Amazing what they've done there. Then you had the new micro distillers that started opening up. Balcones was a great successful story.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at two here that two single malts. So they started not just bourbons, but the American whiskey surgeon. You've got Cedar Rapids here, it's a single malt, and then you had some of these. Another one from Omaha, Brickway. So there's so many out there. So it's been, right now we're at a point with American whiskey. There's just so much variety out there. You just got to try and experiment.
So the market, 20 years ago wasn't as diverse. There was innovation.
Bourbon was still not a category that you would, or American whiskey as such. We don't see what we're seeing with all these micro distillers. So there weren't that many. Another great one is I forget their name now. High West, okay? High West.
Yeah.
What David did with High West, it was amazing. And how they didn't have a distillery, but he blended and he got it from all the big houses. So all these brands came up and up, and then they created that. They all helped, as I call the American Revolution of whiskey. And created
True.
A way of bringing all these categories up. And today we've got a great variety. And when I was 20 years ago, you could buy a bottle of bourbon for about $20, and I give you the classics of Blanton's. Okay, right now Blanton's is on fire, right? We know that.
We know that for sure. Yeah,
and,
it's
Blanton's. Before someone looked at that bottle, beautiful looking bottle with a horse on top of it and all that. You could buy that for $15-20. Try to buy that for that price now. You should have bought
seriously.
It. So, but suburban, and it's been innovation. All the houses have been doing that, and the micro distillers are helping, and they're coming up and up. So
yeah. I think what's happened is people have started out with Scotch whiskey. So if you're a Scotch whiskey drinker, where do you start transitioning over to a bourbon side? Or is it really just to bring a new crowd and bring them into the brown spirits, quote unquote, and then bring them in from the bourbon world?
Two ways about that.
Yeah.
20 years ago, there was a bourbon category. There was a bourbon drinkers. There was some hardcore bourbon drinkers and some Scotch drinkers. And there was a bit of a rivalry back in the day. And they wanted
There you go.
I'm only Scotch and I'm only bourbon. And I'm used to going to the Bourbon Fest in Kentucky. And, if you took a bottle of Scotch there, they'll look at you in a strange way. And if you took a bottle of Scotland, people, they look at you strange. But I love the way all the categories have opened up as the general category of whiskey. So yes, right now, when I look at my data, my circle of friends or my group of people I know, they're all drinking bourbons. They're not just drinking bourbons, but they're drinking other regions as well. And they're open-minded. And I think our show, The End in Las Vegas, we brought that together. Yes, we are Scotch heavy, but we've got lots of different bourbons. We've got lots of other whiskey categories.
Sure.
And that has brought people forward. And even in our private tastings, we bring in American whiskeys all the time. So, yeah.
You just hit the nail on the head. I think it's found its way, and the audience now is kind of reacting, and there isn't this, looking down on the bourbon drinkers. And then there's, again, variety now coming in. It's not just bourbons, it's American whiskeys, it's ryes, it's different kind of mash bills.
Brown spirits have come forward, okay? Brown spirits, and I've got to say, obviously, the marketing and all these whiskey tastings and whiskey events, and people have been educated much better. You have the younger generation that have come in and looked at it, drinking this, and really, it's knowledge hungry. And when you look at brown spirits, whether any category of whiskey or bourbon or whatever, it's people are hungry. People want knowledge, and all these products have amazing, what's the word? Knowledge to part with people. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with white spirits or whatever. There's not a lot there. Okay, when you look at brown spirits, all of them age. There's an aging information.
Sure.
How it's done. And when you look at the whiskey category, you got the way you make bourbon, where you make rye whiskey, where you make it American single malts, and then you look at the Scotch categories or the Irish category. So there's a lot of education, and people, I feel now, with all this education out there, are open-minded and willing to learn a lot more. And especially with these platforms that we're sharing, is also a way of educating.
Yeah. So two big things that we've been noticing, right? It's, first of all, it's the guys that are finally waking up and trying to come into the market, and they're trying to get access to those, really rare bottles and really rare once a year kind of releases, right? So you held up that birthday edition. It comes and goes so fast. Sometimes we don't even have an opportunity to even get it out to the public, right? And that's where I think, let's talk about this for a quick second, then we'll jump over to our main thing. Where do you see the whole secondary market with bourbon traders, people who buy those bottles, sit on it, wait for the price to go up, and then kind of trade it like a stock,
I mean, Pappy started off that craze, okay? Right now, Pappy, it comes out when they sell them, it's all highly allocated, and most retailers will sell it to you at the suggested retail price. Now, some won't, obviously, and it's straight way out there traded or sold at very, very high amounts of money. And that's happening with a lot of these birthday bourbons, and you look at the different village editions, and you see so many limited, and look at the antique series, all the different antique collections from Sazerac, all of that, Buffalo Trace people. So there's so much of that, even Whistle Pig has become a very good player in this market as well.
Those special edition bottles,
special editions. So, what was that one I keep forgetting about that special edition. My brain is they come out every year. It'll come to me anyway, but Whistle Pig is definitely another one. So absolutely, the collector's market is there for it, and there's also becoming like anything else with Scotch and other categories. There's a trading market there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're seeing a lot of people that are kind of finally getting in, and we get calls all the time at Fine Rare Whiskey looking for the fine rare bourbons more so than some of these editions that you mentioned. But I think people are much more loose in what they're enjoying and how they're kind of jumping across lines and kind of it's the product that's unifying people from both sides of the aisle, right?
I don't see right now. I don't see even in some of the guys that are a little bit up in age, the prejudices they had before, Scotch only or bourbon. People have now, simply because, and this is what we encourage at our live events, is have an open mind and drink and try whatever you like, and you'll
absolutely
enjoy it. If it's bourbon, it's bourbon. It's Japanese.
Yeah.
Scotch, Irish, whatever it is, you should open it up and bourbon is very, very interesting, and obviously the way it matures in the temperatures and the climate there compared to how it happens in Scotland or Ireland is very different.
Yeah.
And so that also, plus we're looking at bourbon and is matured in American virgin oak, right? So
Sure.
straight away it's picking up those nice, strong, bold vanillas and sugary flavors in there, which the Scotch industry relies to impart from the bourbon industry, right? Think about that.
Yeah, true. That's true. That's absolutely true. The certain distilleries are buying the American oak barrels and shipping them over, and then getting their finished products now.
It's their backbone, isn't it? It's their backbone. They have to have that seasoned bourbon seasoned in their wood.
Yeah, true that. So, that's, I guess, part of why we should maybe transition over to talking about the this year's Advent calendar. And we mentioned this on our last talks that, right now we are selling these really amazing Advent calendars on the website. You can visit finedrywhiskey.com. And one of the products that is really a hot mover is, in fact, the bourbon edition of this. And I'm going to bring it up on my screen so we can kind of talk a little bit about what's in this year's bourbon edition. But give me a second here, and let me go ahead and pull up my screen.
It's always been a hot seller. Even last year, it was a pretty hot seller.
Yeah, definitely. And the and what we were noticing from the the selection that we're going to show right now to our audience is that this is something that's been very well curated. I mean, there's 24 amazing different products. And again, you're getting a little bit of the variety from all across the aisle, the American whiskey, the rye. So, walk us through some of these and give us some high points on what you think are really standout bourbons that are being added to this year's Advent calendar. So that would be, hold on a second, let me move the box. That would be these this year. There you go. So,
all right.
You can see the screen.
If you look at the 24 amazing 30 ml drams of all this, and they've got a wide selection here. Now, look at Michter's. Okay, that's one of my favorite ones. Michter's I love. So they're using Michter's, and then you've got even Woodford Reserve there. You've got the Reserve. They've got the double oaked.
That's one of the big ones.
Nice whiskey. Basil Hayden. I mean, that's always a great bourbon to try. But then you look down the category there, they've got Uncle Nearest. Yeah. Uncle Nearest is a brand that we've had on our show, and they make something. It's a small operation, but it's an amazing whiskey there as well. And then you go down, you go the Sonoma Distilling Company bourbon. So you're getting you're getting from the big boys like the Jack Daniel's single barrel all the way down to someone like the Sonoma Distilling Company, which creates their own little boutique. Gem.
Yeah, it's California-based. They're actually up in Sonoma County. So, I mean, and you're seeing a lot of the flavors, not only from one particular section.
Plus, you got rye whiskey in here. They've got the Sazerac rye, which is always great. And then you got the old favorite from Texas, the Balcones, which is
Balcones, yeah.
Amazing story, but it's a single malt, but it's an American category. They put it in here as well. It goes under the bourbon calendar, but the thing is, it is American. So they're putting some of that different styles of American in there as well. Burrow Brothers bourbon. I mean, that's a lot of people don't hear about that one, but it's a very nice bourbon as well. So, this is one way to go through the categories and try what you like. And then you can start buying the bigger bottles, because this is amazing. The way this has been curated is taking all the way through the different spans. You got like I said, you got Jack Daniel's sitting there, which pretty much everyone knows about, right? And then the Evan Williams white label is in there as well. And then you go to something like the 1792 small batch, which is a great little bourbon there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what's really good about these is, if you try them and you sample them, then you can kind of jump into the full-size bottles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the beauty about these Advent calendars, and this will be all of them, is one way to do your own home, have your little tasting done at home. And, if you had a few friends that you can compare notes with as well. Yeah. And that's something we'll come back to a bit later on, because we are going to do something nice with some of these sets later this year.
Yeah, so looking at the full range right now, I mean, you've got a little bit of everything, a little bit of different regional variations. You got Texas, you got California, you got the East Coast, you got, all the flavors of where American whiskey and bourbon is being distilled now in the States. I think, this is an amazing list. And, every year the Advent calendar.
there isn't a state in this country that doesn't have a distillery now, right? And it's not
Yeah.
but
I
this
know,
is
which
a
is
great example.
when we start getting back out on the road and visiting and touring and things like that, it's like what's number one is the visitation of the Bourbon Trail, right? You go out there and you kind
Right.
of visit all these distilleries on a a down
I
weekend.
highly recommend going and doing the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah.
I've done it many years ago. Then I did it recently, and unfortunately, with what's been going on with COVID, I wasn't able to attend the what they call the Bourbon Ball, ball and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Bourbon Bowl, right?
Week up there, and it's just great to go to all the distilleries and. Example, but there within that bourbon region of the Bourbon Trail, you've also got the smaller boys now opening up distilleries there as well. And then again, if you're traveling around the country, America's vast, but go to other places.
True.
When I first visited the original balconies, I'll give you my little story there. I was driving.
Yeah. So let me jump off the screen here, and let's get back to full screen view so you can tell us the story a little bit more.
Yeah. So balconies I was actually doing a tasting in Dallas, and on my way down to Austin. So I pulled over. I called up which was then the owner there, and he's changed hands now. I was calling him up from my car, and he says, "I want to come and see your distillery."
Nice.
So he goes, "Oh, great." He says, "Get off this exit." So I pull up, and once you get off the exit, you go over the bridge and look to your left and make a sharp left into this dirt field, and look behind you, and you'll see the distillery. And And I did that. And the road that I crossed over was a bunch of arches. I turned around, looked back, and the distillery was tucked away in one of the roadway arches, okay?
Oh, wow.
And the guy had pretty much built this by hand, but look how successful that story has become.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
a facility now, but it's just, I love the innovation aspect of it.
Great. So American product being more innovative. Now you have, different variants every year coming out with different, additions and special collectibles and things like that. And I think a perfect opportunity to jump into trying and sampling and even having a little bit more of a guided discussion would be one of these advent calendars. And tell us again, when are we going to start with our specialty tasting sessions that we're going to do over the course of the next few months?
Okay, so we are planning bourbon. Obviously, this bourbon advent calendar is going to be one of them. And starting with the weekend of Thanksgiving, we are going to the first one. We're going to do 4 other tastings, and we've identified bourbon as the calendar as one of them. We will also do the Scotch one. We probably will do the single cask one as well.
Yeah.
And we're selecting a few others, and we're going to do one a week all the way up to Christmas. So, where it's the right thing to do with an advent calendar, right? You start cracking these open up and
exactly
all the way up to Christmas Day. So that's the meaning of it. But you know what? You don't have to always wait till, before Christmas Day, or don't have to follow
I know.
It is a tasting calendar, but we will make it feel nice the weekend of Thanksgiving, and we'll work our way up to Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, and we're definitely going to mention on our websites, again, visit findrarewhiskey.com, even universalwhiskeyexperience.com, where these virtual tastings are, I guess, until we get to Vegas next year on the 24th and 25th of April, we're going to try to engage our audience with more of these types of opportunities, getting in, maybe some of the friends that we have from the distilleries will join us, and you guys can kind of crack open a few and tell us some more stories so we can get entertained. So I think we look forward to opportunities like that.
We'll identify a few of the drams, and hopefully we'll have some little surprises with some people joining on the.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so those of you that are looking to pick up the Bourbon Advent Calendar or any of them, you can visit the website, findrarewhiskey.com, go to the Advent Calendar section. All of them are available now, and they start shipping probably in the next week or two. It's subject to getting some of the things cleared on shipping, but we do expect early shipping to start in the next week. So in the meantime, final thoughts. Are we seeing the world go more towards the bourbon drinker or more towards the Scotch whiskey drinker, or are we finding that happy medium in the middle?
It depends which part of the world. Obviously, in America, a lot more of the American bourbon drinkers, but the Scotch category is still there. It's been around for a long time. You go other parts of the world, it's a mixed batch. But the funny thing is that bourbon in American category is growing rapidly around the world, and so all I say is equal opportunity drinking. Enjoy what you like, and do not put a blindfold on your eyes and do not read the label. Sometimes just pick out something.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's
Find
some
what you
great
like.
whiskey makers in this country, so we got to respect the kind of liquids they are producing. It is an old industry here as well. Don't forget that. We're in America. We're not an old distillery. I'm sorry, we're not a young industry. Some of our big companies have been around for many, many decades, and
Yep.
look at the Jim Beam family and the Brown family and all those people. So, yeah, there's a lot of experience in this country when it comes to whiskey making.
Definitely, and then we're excited to offer this product and all of the other ones that are available. Certainly, we try to get our fair share of the allocated items, but if your name is Mahesh, you probably get a few more than most people. But
not always.
Oh, geez.
It could be a disadvantage sometimes.
There you go. Okay, well, the pluses and minuses, you got to weigh them out.
Absolutely.
All right, with that, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank everybody for watching this. Visit us again on the next installment. We're going to talk probably more about scotches next time. Go back to more of the roots of where all this stuff started. We'll deal with a little bit more of a deep dive on one of those advent calendars that features more of the premium scotches. And then, all of them, again, are available for shipping starting next week or so in the next week or two. But visit us, follow us online, check us out on our social media. And if you have any questions, do drop us a line. So, Mahesh, until we catch up soon, thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
All right, take care.